On this episode,
famous, powerful people will often put in doppelgangers. So this is starting to go more into a little bit of the clone theory.
It does. It sounds like him doing like a southern voice.
How do you tell if this guy is really Elvis?
CIA has come out and said that they put a lot of effort and work into creating these masks.
Raise your glass to mysteries, cocktails and conspiracies. Dive into these histories, cocktails and conspiracies. Raise your glass to mysteries, cocktails and conspiracies. Uncover those anomalies, cocktails and conspiracies.
Have you ever spotted a celebrity who looked just a little too much like someone else? Or perhaps you've heard whispers of hidden clones living among us, engineered to mimic our favorite stars. What if I told you that the phenomenon of lookalikes and clones runs deeper than mere coincidence? Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be, whether you're tuning in across the nation or around the world. My name is Shane Squarick, joined by my esteemed, very noisy co-host, Mr. Phillips. We are your conspiracy realists, and we are back with another episode of Cocktails and Conspiracies. Cheers, Mr. Phillips.
I lost my straw.
It took us about 5 to
Cheers.
6 minutes to actually start this thing up because Mr. Phillips had to bounce up and down in his chair. He was exhaling, readjusting himself. And I couldn't, not that our intros are very big or really need to be there at all, but, you know, you got to get off on the right foot. So
It brought
we
me
finally
joy.
got off on a foot. So here we are.
It brought me joy. Please don't get off. Not here. Not now with me.
Yeah, don't get off in that particular context. No, we're trying to keep this PG. We should have one of our strikes returned
I don't
to
want
us.
to keep things
We're
PG.
back in business.
That makes me sad. I don't want to be PG. I
listen,
want to be me. I'm
After
not
we get
PG.
monetized a little bit, maybe we have a little more leeway. It's gonna be PG-13. It can't be rated R, rated X.
Yeah.
We probably shouldn't even say that. I don't even know what words I'm allowed to say or not. But nevertheless, if you haven't guessed it by the subject line, the image, or the description by now, maybe you got it by our really cool intro with our brand new theme music, which we hope you love, which you're going to tell us in the comments underneath that you love that song. Tonight we're talking celebrity clones, celebrity lookalikes, and maybe sort of replacement theories. We're kind of bundling them all together because we think they kind of go hand in hand here. There's going to be a lot of crossover, a lot of banter back and forth, but that's the overall context here. You definitely know what we're talking about. You've heard it. You've seen it. You've seen it probably all over the internet if you've ever been on there. There's always those little 30-second clips, so we thought it'd be a fun one to dive into. Before we get started, though, just remember to like and subscribe. It's that little button right underneath. Share this with a friend. It'll do us a great favor. It costs you nothing to do it. Just a second of your time to click on that.
I tell you what. If you have people you don't like, share it with them. Specifically, if you don't like us, like if you think this sucks, share it with the people you don't like.
That's a great point. Yeah,
Just saying.
yeah, it's like
You know what I'm saying?
perfect vengeance right there.
So there's no excuse not to share. If you like it, share
no
with people you
excuse.
like. If you think we suck, send it to somebody who you think sucks.
You can like it, subscribe it, and then mute us too. We're totally okay with that. Actually, I think that might hurt us a little bit, but nevertheless, just ignore the videos if you don't want to watch them. We're talking celebrity lookalikes, Phillips. We're talking celebrity clones.
Dolly the sheep. This whole episode's going to be just about Dolly the sheep.
Just about a sheep. What was your first kind of exposure to this replacement theory? Maybe one of those things you stumbled across on the internet, you heard about, you saw it in pop culture. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Oh, I think for years and years there had been theories about, I think it was probably Elvis. Elvis was probably the big one, right? That Elvis is still alive. Like, from when I was a kid, I remember hearing stories about that, and like nothing serious, but it was always kind of like, there's that theory, Elvis is really still alive, he just couldn't handle the fame anymore, and blah, blah, blah. So that was probably that one. What about you?
I mean, now that you say Elvis is probably the oldest one, but for me,
Yeah.
it was always Tupac. honestly. I remember.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yes.
like I remember kind of getting tuned in to pop culture. It would have been right after the era that Tupac had gotten gunned down. Big Tupac guy
Yeah.
growing up, even though I'm on the East Coast, should have liked Biggie more. Tupac, just his songs really resonated more with me. I thought they were better. But then ever since then, there's always been this like prevailing theory that he was coming back, like that he actually didn't die, and they
Yep.
covered it up afterwards because everyone was after him. And I remember there was that one album. It was like Life After Death, maybe. You know what I'm talking
No,
about?
that was Biggie. That was Biggie.
Oh, that was Biggie. There was an album Tupac came out with. I got to look it up now.
I
Album
personally,
Tupac
I'm going to offend everybody on the
came
West
out-
Coast right now. I think that Tupac was garbage.
Wow.
I've never been a Tupac fan. Never been a Tupac fan.
I thought he was significantly better than Biggie Smalls.
All right, we'll make mistakes. We'll say silly things. That's okay.
So Tupac had 2 albums after he died. Now I can't remember that. Are You Still Down, I think, is one of them. I'm not really sure. I can't find it. It's a Reddit thread I'm trying to look at here. Irrelevant.
Any
I
hip hop
guess.
head that sees this is gonna fucking.
They're going to lose their mind. They're immediately. They're going to subscribe and they're going to close this immediately. Here we go.
No, just send this to somebody you don't like.
The Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory, which was released under the name Machiavelli in '96, 2 months after his death. And then there was just a bunch of songs within that, like To Live and Die in L.A., Against All Odds. He had a bunch of other songs that were released post-death, which in all likelihood he probably just recorded in advance. They were already written.
Yeah,
and
that
recorded
happens
and so
all the
forth.
time.
Happens
That
all the
happens
time.
all the time.
But
Yeah.
there was a lot that came out. I just and I can't find it right now.
Look
But
at-
I distinctly remember
look
a
at Jimi
song coming
Hendrix.
out like 2 years later. True, also
Yeah.
true. Another one of that same theory. But that was really the first one that kind of got me into the whole Tupac theory as to is this guy still alive? And then from there, it kind of
You know what's-
materialized into like the Elvis.
You know what's interesting that I just kind of thought of, right? So if you think about Jimi Hendrix and Tupac and I'm sure there's a bunch of others, we could name. Maybe not so much Tupac because he was very popular when he was alive, but I know for sure this is the case with Hendrix. He was worth more after he was dead, right? Because he wasn't making any more music. So he was actually worth more because it was limited, right?
Yeah.
Is it possible that some of these guys faked their own death just to increase their net worth?
Right. That's very plausible.
Because it seems to
You
be
see
a
that all
lot
the
in the
time.
music industry. It's a lot in the music industry, right?
Well, I mean, the same thing can be said about artists, right? Artists,
Mm-hmm.
their work is literally worth crap until they're dead. And I don't
Right.
think that anybody's going to pay attention to if an artist croaks, like you're not going to see that. With an actor or an actress, they're monetizing their stuff at the box office. Rarely are you going to see something pop off. There are cult classics that pop off and gain steam down the line, but rarely are you going to see that come down the line anyway. But yeah, I mean, with musicians for sure, I think people pay a little more homage to them at the point of
Yeah.
death when they finally go. And
Look at
something
Sublime.
like
Sublime.
music-
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Sublime
keep
didn't
saying.
become super popular until after Bradley Nowell died.
Right.
It wasn't
I
until
think
after
that's-
Bradley died when Sublime really popped off, and now, they're literally legends.
I think the difference, though, with music.
Not that I'm claiming
versus,
Bradley
like-
faked his death, but I'm just saying. in
Right.
general.
I think the difference between music and other forms of art, like actual physical art, paintings and stuff like that,
Right.
and then movies and acting, is that those are generally inspired by the current times, popular culture, whereas music is often looked at as like ahead of its time. Like you always hear that phrase, like
Sure.
such and such is ahead of its time.
he was ahead of his
They were
time.
innovative for their
Right.
time. They were a catalyst for later generations of music, and I think that is potentially why you'll see musicians or music particularly become uber popular many years down the road. You can look at it from artists that are still alive, for example, like
Yeah.
Journey. I mean, Journey was a huge act, obviously, back in the 80s, but they're selling out buildings now. Def Leppard is another one, selling out buildings now because people have a level of respect for that music many years later that maybe they just didn't have the level of respect for back then. It's still being used
know what it is,
in all
too?
pop culture.
Yeah. Speaking of Journey, I think our generation, for me, killed Journey because I can't listen to Don't Stop Believing anymore because every bar from the period of like 2007 to 2013 closed with that song, and I just can't listen to it anymore. I can't even listen to Journey anymore. It's done. It's over for me. Get them out. Can't listen to them.
I could still listen to it 10 out of 10 times. I saw them in concert not many years ago, maybe 5 years ago. Phenomenal. Strongly encourage anyone to see it. The new guy they have in there sounds just like the original. It's great band. But I think music has a way of bringing you back. It's like that nostalgia act cranked up. Whereas, movies and stuff, they have that, but to a lesser degree. Like, you're not going to just be out at a bar and see a movie on the television generally, right?
No.
You're not going to be out in the wild. And you might, but music is everywhere. And so, like you said, when you're out at a bar and you hear that, it triggers a memory. And then years later, you hear it, it triggers another memory. And I think that tends to be why you'll see the popularity increase down the line, or at least become sustainable.
And I'll tell you what, to that theory, not that this has anything to do with the actual topic of tonight's podcast, but I know you love 80s music. I love 80s music. I especially love, 80s B-sides and weird shit, right? But the reason why I think I love it so much, when we were young kids, 3, 4, 5 years old, right? And our parents were listening to the radio, right? What was playing? There was today's hits, but there was hits from 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. So, I sometimes will hear, I don't know, Annie Lennox, Walking on Broken Glass, right? I remember driving in my mom's Dodge Shadow being, 3 years old and that song being on. It just triggers those weird core memories from, when we were super young. Music has just an insane way of doing that. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. And so kind of leaning into your theory a little bit is, are these people hiding themselves because they're getting wealthier? I think the answer to that is probably no, because for every successful act that sustains, there's hundreds that are one-hit wonders or were popular and sort of fizzled off. Having said that, I do think there's something to be said about being famous, being in the spotlight, and having your life really picked apart. On the Tupac side, it was dangerous. Rap, hip hop at that time was, I mean, maybe even still today, but certainly more so then, was very much, kill or be killed. And he was not the first nor the last artist to have an attempt on his life. So, is it plausible that maybe he just went to hiding because he was over it? He realized it wasn't worth it. I think it's possible.
What's interesting about that specifically,
but
right. What's interesting about that is that, again, I'm going to piss off a lot of Tupac fans and people on the West Coast, but if you look at early footage of Tupac, I don't know if you've ever seen any early footage of Tupac. Tupac is not the gangster rapper like you thought he was, man. Tupac was very flamboyant and a little what would be considered soft, especially if you look at it in terms of gangster rap of the early 90s. I don't know. So to your point, if Tupac really wasn't living that life and it was all a front, it was all an act, and if he actually got into some serious things, which clearly he did, maybe he was like, hey, I'm not dealing with this, I'm out.
It's kill or be killed, right? And Puff Daddy, who's probably a name that we don't even want to mention right now, a different subject, was also the same way. I think back to the Eminem movie 8 Mile, when they were talking about his name is Clarence. He went to a private school. Puff Daddy went to a private school. He was brought up relatively wealthy and got into that, and then again started killing people instead of being killed because he got the shit kicked out of him once, and that was the end of that. But moving away from them, kind of bringing us back to Elvis, I think the idea of this disappearing act really started with him. I think, like you said, that's been the one that has plagued everybody, because Elvis, and I just, to this day, I don't understand the obsession with Elvis. Everyone was all friggin' bonker. Like, my mother had, I still find some of the stuff today, like Elvis pictures and stuff. There's signatures on it. I don't know if they're real or not. I'm like, I gotta ask somebody, because if they are, it's probably worth a lot. Pictures everywhere. I've got, literally sitting next to me, this is a ticket stub to a concert that she went to for Elvis.
Oh, shit.
Like, this is insanity. I've been finding these things in every box of old knickknacks. My mother's passed, for those that aren't aware. So, as I'm cleaning out old boxes of crap that are still just laying around the house, there's just all this Elvis stuff. The obsession is unbelievable. To this day, you've got impersonators, no pun intended to the episode, but everywhere. And then that show that you made me watch the other day,
Kings of Tupelo? Dude, that was a wild show.
The whole thing was based about Elvis impersonators going nuts. So it's like... That town of Tupelo is
so
just
weird.
dedicated to Elvis.
I don't get
never
it.
seen an obsession on a celebrity. The music is good. It is.
I don't think so.
I think the music and his voice vocally for that time, unbelievable. I don't think
There's nothing wrong with his
timeless.
voice. No, I don't. And I think, you know what it is? I think he was just so different. You know what I mean? It was just a shock to the culture, and I think that had a lot to do with it. Like, I'm not saying he wasn't talented, right? I mean, the guy could sing, he could dance, he could play instruments, he could act. Apparently, he could even do karate. So I'm not saying he wasn't talented. I just don't think the music is that great. Like, I don't know. And I like a lot of, I mean, you know me, dude. Like, I'm the king of obscure music. Like, I love music. Not to say that Elvis is obscure, but I love all kinds of music.
Sure.
And I've given Elvis a shot. I just don't like it. It's just not good music to me.
I enjoy it, but not...
And I like old
enjoy it
shit.
in bits and pieces. Yeah. I think...
I listen to Otis Redding.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
I'll listen to
don't have much
Louis
say
Prima.
that. Yeah.
I'll listen to 1950s New Orleans style jazz. I listen to everything. Elvis sucks, dude. Anyway, off my Elvis.
You're really working to try to get us as few subscribers as possible with what you're saying. I hate Tupac and I hate Elvis so far. Thanks, Tim. The first 15 minutes we just lost two demographics.
Sometimes discourse makes people want to watch a little more. So
well, hopefully they don't dislike the video. Like it. Press the up button for me, not for Tim. Screw Tim.
Or send it to somebody you don't like.
So I think the obsession with Elvis, and then the fact that he just sort of, he croaked in his bathroom, privately at a young age, where that like old thing in like movies, right? Like if you don't, or TV shows especially, not even movies, TV shows, if you don't see the character die on screen, chances are they can die. And I think that like mantra has like factored into like the whole Elvis mythology, because nobody really saw, like, if there was a big dramatic accident, right? Or like an instance even with like Tupac, where there's witnesses around to it, it's very easy to buy into it. All right, you might still have conspiracy going on there, but for the most part, you can wrap your head around it, justify it. If it was something like age related, if it was something like a suicide or something, like people can accept that. But the fact that somebody just sort of like, I think he had a heart attack or an aneurysm, I can't remember, but he just goes in his bathroom, quiet, nobody really knows about it, unexpected.
Stroked out while he was taking a shit.
Right.
That's the story.
So I think that shock and awe sort of made people not want to believe that he had passed on. Maybe it doesn't really hold much weight, though. So most recently, I think what was one of the original inspirations for this episode, and we toyed with the idea of maybe doing a full episode just on this, but probably there wasn't enough substance here. And finding out how much Tim hates Elvis Presley now, it's probably a good thing we buckled this into something else. So most recently, there's been a lot of, I guess, suggestion that Elvis is still alive, as usual, but that he is a gentleman by the name of Bob Joyce, who's a pastor. I don't know where he is a pastor in off the top of my head. We could probably Google that real quick, but while we're waiting to do that, I'm going to pull up my screen here, my thrifty screen sharing. And I got a little extra thrifty tonight, and I decided to put it in Canva and mix and match some
look at this guy.
I thought it'd be a little more fun, a little easier for me to do. So we got a lot kind of going on here. I think it's fairly obvious to point out who is who. Obviously, Elvis is the younger, more handsome gentleman here, and Bob Joyce is this older gentleman with the white hair. Let's take these photos from down here, Tim, in the lower right-hand corner first.
Yeah.
What's your initial off-the-cuff impression? I mean, I guess you can look at a blanket view of all of them.
The side profile to me is the most, the one that stands out the most. But
for sure,
starting with some of the other ones, I see it. I see it in the eyes, especially so if we look at the bottom right, the eyes stand out to me the most.
Yeah.
And
the
then
squint in his
if
eyes
you
are
look,
very similar.
the squint in his eyes, and then if you look at his mouth when he smiles, right, it's kind
Yeah.
of, I guess it would be our right, his left. The left
Mm-hmm.
side of his mouth is open a little wider, right is a little tighter.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you kind of see that a little bit in the mouth as well, but I think for me, it's the biggest is the eyes. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, the eyes unequivocally to me make the most sense
Yeah.
in there. The facial shape is very similar as well. This picture I want to bring up next because when I looked at this really doesn't do anything. In fact, he looks more like Arnold Schwarzenegger to me than he does Elvis Presley.
He does. He kind of does.
It seemed to be a popular photo that was popping up all over the place. There's a video on X that had a lot of other cutscenes going through. I guess it doesn't hurt for me to actually pull that up maybe here.
You know what's funny? That dude kind of looks like Kenny Rogers too.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah.
Little Kenny Rogers going on there.
So I'm gonna.
You know, when I was a kid, I used to think Kenny Rogers owned Roy Rogers.
Okay, well that's an interesting.
Well, I was a kid, and it was Rogers.
That's fair. Fair.
And to me, Kenny Rogers was like country music. I thought, and I'm like, oh well, like Roy Rogers is like chicken. They got like cowboy hats on it. I'm like, this guy owns it. Apparently, I was wrong.
You're taking us off the rails here, Tim. I'm not gonna lie. Kenny,
I'm trying to have fun, baby.
So I'm gonna keep this muted here because I don't feel like listening to the background music. But this is just something that somebody on Twitter put together or X. Just a lot of motions here. I'm actually gonna slow this down.
Oh, look at that!
Much here.
Look at the hands.
Well, so yeah, let's jump back a little bit here. What's interesting now? These
The
are
mannerisms
cuts, right?
are interesting.
So the mannerisms
Yeah.
are very similar here, and this is what I thought was really interesting about this whole thing. So as we go through, maybe I should have done a little faster. Interesting postures right there. I guess playback speed's not that bad. Interesting selection right there. Again, hand mannerisms looks very similar right there. It's going to take us an hour to get through this, but the face, very similar right there. Again, very similar mannerisms with the fingers. This is in the middle of, he's a pastor, so he's preaching right now in most of these.
So it's not like he's thinking about what he's doing.
Correct. You would think so. Right.
In it, yeah, one would assume.
Right.
Interesting.
So we're going to kind of let a couple of these go here. Again, a lot of the smiles that are going through.
Yeah.
Stance is very similar a lot of the times. Okay. There's a lot of similarities, right?
Yeah.
So as I'm looking through all of this, I'm seeing this stuff. I don't know what this was even supposed to be at all, but I'm seeing a lot of this stuff online. And I mean, I can see it, right? But when you're looking at all of those images that we just kind of scrolled through in that video, the initial thing that comes to me, this is where the realist aspect comes in, is you're cherry picking photos of Elvis doing particular mannerisms, and then you're cherry picking a guy that speaks for a living, right? He gives presentations, for lack of a better word, to a crowd of people all the time. And so he's trying to get engaging. So I'm sure if you took the right stills of me, there's going to be some of my mannerisms that
I was just going to say that.
to Elvis or celebrity. And so when I looked through that video, it was not very convincing. When we look at these photos here again, too,
it's interesting. It's not convincing.
It's interesting. You nailed it, Tim. That was the perfect explanation. Very interesting. Similarities, for sure.
Yeah.
But especially this one. I mean, the shape of his face looks very similar, right?
But
outside of that, I don't, it's not jumping out. Like when we just did an episode on the Challenger. If you guys didn't watch that 2 episodes ago, go check that out. That was incredible. When we look at those astronauts and their doppelgangers who convincingly have the exact same names, that to me is a no. I mean, it is uncanny, the resemblance in them. With this guy,
those are strong.
This guy Bob Joyce, this isn't as compelling to me, right?
No, I'm not sold. I think it's an interesting story. It's fun to talk about and fun to theorize, if you will, but I'm not sold on it.
Okay. I wasn't either. And so I said,
Can we hear him?
how do you tell, stop getting ahead of me, how do you tell if this guy is really Elvis? Well, I want to hear this motherfucker talk. I want to hear him sing. Well, he's a pastor, so why wouldn't he sing? So let's see if we can listen to this a little bit. I just picked a random one off of Google, off of YouTube here. So we're going to listen here and just go ahead and see what you hear.
Okay.
Oh, I got to unmute it. Might help.
Once I stood in the light with my head bowed in the darkness of the light turns to be. I fell all alone and I cried, oh Lord, don't hide your face from me.
Oh, baby. That made me feel good over there, baby. Little Elvis.
Is
for you.
that an Elvis song?
I don't
I
think that's an Elvis
okay.
song, no. I don't
All
think
right, I
so,
have no
no.
idea.
It's not a song.
All
that
right,
I'm
so
familiar with.
listen. The man sounds like Elvis. I'll give you that.
It's not in just one song, though, Tim. And this is the
Right.
only reason that I have kind of went down this rabbit hole is everything you listen to. He sounds like that. You just
does.
had to ask me, is that an Elvis song?
Yeah,
That's
I'm obviously
how much
not being
like Elvis he sounds like. Because you don't
not being an
know.
Elvis
Like,
fan, I wouldn't know.
Holy
Yeah.
crap. I know enough about Elvis. I don't know his discography to say. I'm almost positive it's not. But, I mean, I'm just going to pull up some other one right here. I've already got it playing, so you're probably here. Whoops. I can see us setting up like a Cocktails and Conspiracies, like Elvis impersonator night now, Mr. Phillips. Woo!
Yeah,
I'm
we could
jumping
have the boys from Kings of Tupelo on.
There we go, the twins, the only Elvis twins, which is a claim to fame I didn't know existed.
I mean, the one guy's living in a trailer. I'm sure he doesn't look like he has much going on. I'm sure he'd
He could
join
use
us
a couple bucks.
for a laugh.
Tim, but you got to be honest.
Not that we're paying anybody.
That seems damn close to what Elvis
Yes.
sounds like.
So listen, the guy 100% sounds like Elvis. He kind of looks like Elvis. He's got some of the same mannerisms of Elvis as Elvis. Excuse me. Now, how old is this man? Do you know?
Great
He's
question.
an older
What up?
gentleman. Let's see if we can find out how old he is.
Age. Pastor Bob Joyce, Robert Wayne Joyce, was born on June 19th, 1952. Elvis
Okay.
Presley, born January 8th, 1935. So there would be a 20-year difference between the two of them.
Correct. But listen to this.
Mm-hmm.
He is of the age of somebody that would have grown up listening to Elvis, is he not? Or at
Agreed.
least somewhere near that
100%
age.
agreed. Yes.
So it's not outside of the realm of possibility that he just happens to look a little bit like Elvis. And because of that, he's a fan of Elvis, or let's say he was a fan anyway, happens to look like him. The guy's a pastor, he sings, and maybe he just tries to mirror his voice after Elvis.
Influenced.
Not outside of the realm of possibilities.
100%.
He's influenced by him.
And having watched that Kings of Tupelo and honestly seeing a lot of impersonators, what you notice is that a lot of these people, whether they're impersonating actively or not, they are very much inspired in the way they dress, the way they do their hair, the way they act.
Yes.
Those Southerners,
The dancing,
that's how they are.
right.
The dancing is like
And-
that.
Yes.
And so I think that's plausible. That is
Yeah.
very, very good vocals and to look that similar to a guy.
It is. It is. It is.
But I do think that you're most likely right. I think if we were to
And
stamp
Elvis,
this one,
yeah.
probably debunked.
Yeah. He also has a very distinct voice when he sings, right? He's got that, it's that Elvis voice. I mean, I'm sure if you had somebody that really knew music, they could, right, like all those specific things. So if you like, you could practice that over time, you get better at it, right? I mean, look, it's fun. The guy looks like him. The guy moves like him. The guy certainly fucking sounds like him. It's a fun one. If this was an episode of Mythbusters, I'd still probably say busted, but maybe a little bit of plausibility in there.
Well, there we go. We'll throw that up there. If my editor watches this far into the video, debunked. Now, Phillips, the floor's yours. What do you have for me? You said you have a little musical doppelganger for me.
Oh, a little musical doppelganger. So not really so much a doppelganger, but more of a theory. And when you and I had talked about doing this, it wasn't. And when we had talked about not just kind of like celebrity lookalikes and clones, but what I found exciting about this was the whole like, did that musical artist or did that actor die and were they replaced with somebody, right? So one of the biggest ones is Paul McCartney of the Beatles, one of the biggest bands of all time. Now we're talking about a band and an artist that I actually do like their music. Not in love with it, but I do like it. So the whole Paul is dead theory derives from the theory that Paul McCartney died back in 1966 in a car crash. There are connections to songs and albums that fans point to as proof. One of those songs is called A Day in a Life. Do you know that song? It's a very good song.
Guy, man. I actually think the Beatles
I
are
implore you to
terrible.
listen to it. Oh, dear Lord Jesus Christ. I'm not even doing this podcast with you anymore.
This is
You're going to tell me that
be a rough
Elvis is
podcast.
better than the
We're going to
Beatles?
lose a lot of fans from here.
Are you
I would
going to
take
tell me
Elvis over
that
the Beatles
Elvis is
any day
better
of
than the
weeks.
Beatles?
Unequivocally, any
You
day of the week, I'll
are,
take Elvis over them.
you're shot out, you're on Quaaludes. I don't respect you anymore.
Yep.
In any event, in the song "A Day in a Life," A Day in the Life. Sorry, Beatles fans. John Lennon sings a verse. He says he blew his mind out in a car. He didn't notice that the lights had changed. Right, that's one of the verses in the song, and apparently fans point to that being proof that Paul McCartney died in a car crash in 1966. Now, of course, having said that, kind of going back a little bit, he would have had to have been replaced by somebody else because we all know that Paul McCartney is still selling out arenas today, right? So the theory speculates that that's not the original real Paul McCartney. Other than just that song, there are some other album covers, specifically Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Band, that I'm going to share with you right now.
Okay.
I'm usually not the sharer. Let's see if I can do this correctly.
Oh, boy. There's a big trial and error here, ladies and gentlemen. We don't know what's going to happen.
Here we go.
He's got it. Okay.
So
What are we
there we go.
looking at
That's
here?
the cover. That is the cover to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. That is an album by the Beatles. And fans speculate. So now, mind you, that song that I just talked about, right, A Day in the Life, that was on this album. And fans speculate that this album cover is also proof that Paul McCartney died and was replaced because they're flowers. It's a little ominous. Everybody's kind of just very stoic. And it's supposed to represent almost like a funeral, if you will, for Paul McCartney. Then we switch over to another one. And we're going to take a look at Abbey Road, which is
So
probably
I've
their
heard
most
this Abbey
famous
Road
album.
theory. Yeah.
Yes. So Abbey Road, which is probably their most famous album, it's probably the most famous album cover of all time. If you notice at all of them, right, this is Paul. Do you see my cursor here? So Paul
you gotta
is
click it
second
away there.
from the left.
Yep.
Okay, Paul is second from the left. What do you notice about his feet? He's not wearing any shoes. He's barefoot.
Only one not wearing shoes.
Everybody else has shoes on. He's the only one not wearing shoes. Very interesting, right? So people theorize that that is supposed to represent a funeral procession. So that Paul, this is his funeral, and that's why he's barefoot. He's crossing into the afterlife. Now, going back to the song that I talked about, A Day in the Life, I'm not going to play the song because I'm pretty sure that we would get flagged on YouTube. I don't think we're allowed to do that. But if you listen to that song, the way that that song ends, it's a very emphatic, but also at the same point in time, ominous type of instrumental buildup, which is really supposed to represent the culmination and then just the final dong end of Paul's life right there.
Right.
And so that is the theory, my friend, that Paul McCartney has actually been dead since 1966. And there's other things. If you listen to some records backwards, they say things like I'm tired and and things like that. And there's a bunch of other, lyrics. In one of them it says, the walrus was Paul. There are a lot of other little clues that you can kind of take on there, but that's the theory that Paul McCartney died in 1966. Now, I think that's a fun one. This has been in rock and roll folklore for a really, really long time. I mean, this theory came about in the 60s. This isn't something new. Like, this is a theory that's been around for, I mean, almost 60 years now. Paul McCartney is still selling out arenas today. If they did replace him, man, oh man, did they find another gem.
So I'm going to bring up a photo here because they allegedly replaced him with a guy named Billy Stein. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Billy Shears. Sorry, Billy Shears. Billy Shears. So here are the two sets of photos. There's a bunch more out there. This one was confusing to me looking into it a little bit, only because I really didn't know what the conspiracy was. I mean, I remember hearing things about the songs, like playing in the background, and it was like Turn on Me, Dead Man, and I Buried Paul, like those things like you said. But I don't know. I'm of the opinion you can often hear whatever you want in different forms of media.
Right.
So, I looked at these, and on the surface, they look like the exact same person. And I think the argument was largely that, here's supposed to be Paul McCartney on the left of both photos, and here's, the replacement person on the right-hand side of these photos, which would be Billy Shears. And so, a couple things I noticed initially is, like, his jaw looks very different.
It's a little different, yeah.
A looped jaw, like, he's a lot more rounded jaw here. He's got a little bit of a butt chin in both of them.
It's more pointed in the other ones.
Right, and his face looks a lot longer as well, which I thought was pretty interesting.
It does.
Now, also, what I will say is he's got some crow's
bad.
feet under his eyes too. No, you're good. You got see that? So that was interesting to me too. There. So what were you going to say on that?
I don't know when these photos were taken, but it looks like if you compare both the photos on the left, the photos on the right, it looks like the photos of the supposed Billy look to be a little bit newer than the photos on the left of Paul. I could be totally wrong on that, but that's at first glance that's what it looks like to me. So if you look at the left, those photos look older. If you look at the right, they look a little bit newer. Except for the top right, that looks old. That looks like 70s, if I had to guess.
Right. These might be remastered.
Point is, right. They very well could have been. I don't know, man. I just sometimes I look back at photos myself and I'm like, holy fuck, I look like a different person. Like you know what I mean? Like people change over time.
Of course. And I think there is something to be said about that too. I think the longness in the face could have a lot to do with the haircut, because now he's got a haircut that's sort of accentuating, right? Whereas like this is a little bowl cut
it's
there.
Perspective. Exactly. I mean, it's covering his forehead.
Right. Well, right. You're exposing that whole area now, and you're fluffing it at the top a little bit too.
Exactly.
The tell to me that they're the same person is really, again, in the eyes. Is it kind of looks like the eyes are off centered. You see that? Like this eye droops a little bit. On all the photos, it droops. And that's kind of hard to find somebody that's going to have that. I do think the jaw seems very odd to me. And I don't know
The jaw thing is weird. The jaw thing is a little weird. I'll give you that. But
I'd say
these are probably
out there, but these were just some fun ones I found there too.
These are probably all the same person. You know what, too? Statistically, what are the odds that you'd be able to find somebody that looks nearly identical, that sounds nearly identical, and has the stage presence of somebody like Paul McCartney to be the frontman of the Beatles? Like, what are the odds of that? And I know it's been done before. I mean,
what are the odds of that, Tim? Yeah. What a segue! And you didn't even realize it, did you?
Glad I queued you up, big dog.
I'm going to ask you that. So this is starting to go more into a little bit of the clone theory. Obviously, these aren't direct clones here. We're joking. It's being facetious. But it's an interesting one that started to pop up in Hollywood that always got me confused. First one I want to bring up is this one right here. What are the odds?
K-Pay. What up, K-Pay?
Katy Perry and what the heck?
Dude, she looks like... Is that Zooey Deschanel?
Zooey Deschanel, yes.
Oh, dude, I love Zooey Deschanel. I hope my wife doesn't hear this. I love Zooey Deschanel. These two look like twins. I never realized how similar they look.
They look identical. I actually thought they were the same person for many, many, many years.
Did you really?
I thought they were the same person. I had no idea they were two different people because I saw Zooey Deschanel in like a show and I just thought it was Katy Perry.
What's really funny?
Exactly, they look like twins. Could be twins.
They look very similar. You know what's really funny about that?
Singers, Mr. Phillips.
I was
what are the
just
chances?
gonna say Zoe Deschanel, I don't know if I'm saying her name correctly, Deschanel,
Yes, you are.
is a fantastic singer.
Yep. Incredible singer. Incredible singer. That's pretty spooky, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, dude, I mean, I never realized how similar they look. I never realized that. And I've always been in love with Zoe. Sorry, babe. My wife doesn't watch this anymore. It's all good.
This is going to be our first episode here. So I'm going to give you another one. That
Sometimes my
that is
kids do, though. Sorry, kiddos. I love your mom. I'm only kidding.
You know these girls, right?
Oh, baby.
Do you know those girls?
Margot and what's the other one? Why do I always forget her name?
Well,
Jamie
that's
Presley?
Emma Mackey. No, that's Emma Mackey.
Oh, that's Emma Mackey. Dude, get fucking Jamie Presley in there, too. They look identical.
There we go.
Yeah, that's weird.
Those are 4 different people.
That's so nuts, dude.
That's
By the way, I have,
4.
who's the other one? Jamie Mackey?
No, I lost their name. Yeah, something Mackey.
What's her name?
Emma Mackey.
I have no idea who that is. I'm old. I don't know who people are in pop culture anymore. I don't know who people are.
This is going to get even crazier. Ready for this one?
Okay.
God, I'm loving the Canva right now. 6 different people.
Dude, that's
6
wild.
different people!
Look.
Okay.
That is
Are you ready for this?
wild.
Top left, right here. I'm gonna hide this one out of the way here. Let's make this one a little bit bigger.
Okay.
Top left, right here. This is Jamie King.
Mhm.
This is Margot Robbie. This is Faith Ford. This is Samara Weaving, who looks. This is.
She looks so similar to Margot Robbie, dude.
Yep. This is Emma Mackey, who was in this first photo right here. Okay, in the bottom middle, and this is Jamie Presley right here.
So if you told me that Margot Robbie, Jamie Presley, and who's the one on the bottom left? What's her name again?
The bottom left is Samara Weaving.
Dude, those 3 look identical. The top, bottom, middle, and top right. I'm sorry, top left, bottom, middle, top right. They look very similar. I can take those 3 out
Depending
and say
on the photo,
they look
yeah.
alike. Right. The other 3 are identical.
Identical. And then depending on the photo, I'm not going to be able to find a good one this fast, but you've also got WWE wrestler Liv Morgan, who also looks like all of them.
Yeah.
This is 7 people that look like they're all blood related. It's absurd.
7 famous people.
7 all famous people that look like they're blood related.
Do you want to know why they're all famous?
Because they all look like that?
Because they're all hot.
Wow. That certainly helps, for sure. That certainly helps.
That's it.
Boy. We can really go crazy here. You're going to know these next ones.
Yeah, you put me on the spot. Now when I don't know them, is that
Yes.
is that my girl
Who's this on the
Victoria
right?
Justice on the right?
That's Victoria Justice on the right. This is Nina
Yeah, but who's on the
Dobroff.
left?
That's Nina
All
Dobroff.
right, they're super
on the
similar.
left.
Very similar.
Very similar. Okay. I'm going to go to another one right here. These celebrities you're probably not going to know. On the left, we've got Bryce
No idea who
Dallas
those people are.
Howard. She's from Jurassic World. And on the right is Jessica Chastain.
Oh, she was that cute redhead from Jurassic World. Okay, she doesn't
That
look
is
as cute
correct.
there. Sorry.
Yep. Okay. Here we go. Obviously, Demi Moore here. This is Jennifer Connelly right here. Spitting images of one another right there.
Holy shit, dude.
Right?
Yeah.
This
That's
is like what
identical.
starts to get
That is
really
identical,
crazy,
man.
This is why it starts to get crazy. Okay. That's a bad picture of Jennifer Garner on the right, but that's Hilary Swank, who
Yeah.
looks exactly like Jennifer Garner right there. So we're going to shrink
Wow.
it down. I don't know why
Another
these are
one I
all
didn't
women, but
realize how similar they looked.
okay, this is going to blow your mind here. Who's that?
I don't know who is who.
I'll ask you this first. Which one is Tom Hardy?
I think Tom Hardy's on the right, but the dude
That
on the
is
left
Tom
looks
Hardy.
just like Tom Hardy.
It's Tom Hardy on the right. The guy on the left is Logan Marshall Green. Absurd.
I don't know who that is.
again,
Who is that? Is he a
spitting
famous guy?
image. No, just like a B-list actor.
Oh, just some dude? Oh, okay.
Yep. He's an actor, just B-list actor. On the
Okay.
right, you've got Brittany Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
On the left, Lily Reinhart.
Very similar. Different, but
a lot of
very
these are
similar.
Very similar. Yes, very similar. We already did the Margot Robbies. There's like 2,000 Margot Robbies. See if there's anything else that was really good in here.
You know what's funny? I think you would agree with me on this. For the longest time, I considered Margot Robbie as one of the most beautiful women in Hollywood. Who would have thought that there'd be 7 other women that look exactly like her?
Right. Exactly. Jared Leto
Is that
and
Jake
Jake
Gyllenhaal?
Gyllenhaal. Yep.
Right,
Yep.
I could see that.
Okay. Leonardo DiCaprio and some famous archer.
Interesting.
It's wacky. This is not wacky.
That's insane.
Okay, this one's really trippy. Emma Stone and Melinda Clarke.
Emma Stone. I don't know who that is, but they look very similar. Wow,
I've never heard of that.
This
other
is
girl
making
either.
me realize how old I am because I don't know who any of these people are.
I don't know who that other girl is either. Here we go. Isla Fisher.
Is that the chick
and
from
Amy
Wedding
Adams.
Crashers?
That is the chick from Wedding Crashers. Yep.
Oh, I loved her too, dude.
It's crazy, man.
Very similar.
And here's one of my favorite ones, which, again, I thought this was the same actor. Your boy Harry Potter on the left, Daniel Radcliffe, and Elijah
who's the guy on the
Wood.
right? Oh shit,
Elijah
dude! I would
Wood
have thought that
from
was
The
Daniel
Lord of the
Radcliffe.
Rings. Yep.
I know who Elijah Wood is, but had you not said that, I would have went, yeah, it's both Harry Potter.
So, there's so many more, right? And the reason I wanted to bring some of these up and start to show you, these are celebrities, Tim. These are people that are in the celebrity spotlight, that are out there, and they look super familiar to people, and you can identify them because, again, they're in the presence of something. So imagine how many people are out there.
They're in the
that
public
could look
eye.
similar to other people, right? That could look so similar to people that aren't in the public eye, and that's where I want to bring up this one.
Oh,
Zena LaVey.
My girls.
You know who
are gonna
Zena
be
LaVey
pissed
is?
at you. I do know who Zena LaVey is.
Explain to us who Zena LaVey is.
Zena LaVey was the wife of Anton LaVey, who was the founder of the Church of Satan.
Mm-hmm.
And quite possibly the mother of a very famous pop star.
You think she's the mother?
Potentially.
So we know, and this is where we start to go into the replacement theory a little bit, and this is where we start to talk about gene therapies, which we know have been tested for many, 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 many years. More recently in, the sheeps and stuff you're going to hear from overseas and stuff. You're not generally here in the U.S. There's a lot of things around that, but you've got CRISPR that's popping up here, and there's a lot of speculation we're going to designer baby territory soon. All of the photos you're
biting
looking at
my
on the
tongue
left,
so hard right now.
bite your tongue. All the photos on the left are of Taylor Swift. All of the photos on the right are of Zena LaVey. But I'd be remiss to say that the ones on the right do not look exactly like Taylor Swift taken with a very old camera. And so,
I mean,
when you, and this is where the theory gets interesting to me, Tim, is when you consider about the Church of Satan, right? And they're probably up to some crazy crap there to some degree.
yeah.
Is it out of the realm of possibility that they were trying to experiment with some degrees of gene therapy, or just seeding to try to make their own clones, to try to create their own spawn to some degree? And is there some sort of a tie-in to why so many of these celebrities, as I just closed my screen share, but I'm going to bring up again, end up being famous and looking so much alike?
Wouldn't it be so much more fun if the Church of Satan didn't do a gene therapy and they just figured out a magic spell?
Well, I guess it could be, yeah.
Come on, it's the
Making
Church
a
of Satan.
hypothesis
You're
now.
telling me that wouldn't be more fun if you found out that magic was real and Anton LaVey was casting spells, cloning people? That would be so much more fun.
I mean, I don't think of magic as anything more than technology, right? And so I don't think magic exists. I think it's all technology.
I don't.
What I'm
disagree.
suggesting
I'm just trying to have
here
fun.
is that, like, I don't know, man. Like, there's a lot. I mean, if you do their hair, like when they do their hair the same here, they are
Especially
almost
that
twin
bottom
sisters.
one, yeah, dude.
Right, they're twin
Yeah.
sisters. Like, and then again here, like these are almost all twins, or like They have to be of the same gene pool. And it's fascinating to me then that you get the biggest pop star in the world, and she's a spitting image of the wife of the founder of the Church of Satan.
Yeah. I mean, that one is almost undeniable. I mean, they look so goddamn
And it's
similar.
in everything.
It's
It's
freaky.
mannerisms, it's body type, it's everything.
It is
And you've always heard the
freaky, dude.
phrase, sell your soul to the devil for fame, for fortunes. Could that potentially be what's happening in that scenario?
Here's an interesting thought.
Yep.
What if the ability to do this is out there, and it's been well, clearly, given the age of these people, right? If it's true, let's just play pretend for a second. This is true. All these people are quote unquote clones, or at least derivatives of the same gene pool, right? Wouldn't it be interesting if somebody in Hollywood had a connection to that capability and said, hey, we've got this really famous person. They could act, they could sing, they're really good looking. It would be really great if I had 7 more of those, because this person is worth, you know, let's say $20 million to me. If I had 7 more of those, that's many more millions of dollars I could have. I'm going to have to wait a little while, but that's really going to pay off in the future. Wouldn't that be a fun thing to do? Well, I'm going to say fun thing to do.
When we did an episode on P. Diddy, and you guys can go back, that was in season 1 of last year, probably around September. We referenced a movie called Blink Twice that had just came out featuring Channing Tatum. And that was right around the time, right before the whole baby oil thing came out. And I had made a comment to you that I strongly believe that this movie was referencing that. We've seen this a lot in pop culture, where movies are telling us stories about the real world. And this is everything fantastical from Star Trek and Star Wars to the X-Men to something like Blink Twice. We've often heard that sometimes artists, either movies or music, will spill out their problems, their troubles in their art, in their scripts, in their movies. Again, Anna Kendrick just came out with a movie called Woman of the Hour, which is based off a true story that really happened. Back in 2005, there was a movie called The Island. Okay? It was starring Scarlett Johansson and Ewan McGregor.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool. I'm big into the science fiction movies. Really cool science fiction movies. It's about these like this race of people, human race. They live inside this like building, for lack of a better term, and they just basically do the same thing every day. They're very well kept in shape. They're always exercising. They're taking like their vitamins every single day. They're managing it. And Ewan McGregor wants something more. He keeps having like visions like of not being in this building. And he wants to get out of there. And he just wants to escape, and he thinks there's something more. And to fast forward a little bit, he ends up, having a crush with Scarlett Johansson, but they're really not allowed to have any interpersonal relationships at all. He convinces her to try to escape with him. And they finally do escape. And they get out into the real world. Ewan McGregor ends up finding out where he's supposed to live, like where his home is. And he feels like his brain was washed because they were living in this like enclosed, confined compound. But there's this whole world out there. And he gets there, and who does he find but himself?
Oh, baby.
And so the Ewan McGregor that's sort of the protagonist of the whole story is a clone of the real world Ewan McGregor, or the character that he's being played. As they're going through it, Scarlett Johansson sees herself on a billboard, and she's a clone. And so everybody within this building are clones. And what's happening is they were getting lottery tickets, right? And then they would go off to what's called the island, and then that person would disappear. What was actually happening was they were harvesting those people for organs for the real person, for the donor.
Interesting.
They were giving their cells, and creating these humans, like basically in tubes. They were building them. They didn't necessarily start as an infant. They tried to keep them around their life, but they were young and they were strapped. And like that's why they were always exercising, taking like very regimented vitamins and stuff, because the body was kept in pristine condition. And they just didn't know any better. So they really never. They were named with numbers. They just had no personality to it. it was such a fascinating movie, and I couldn't help but think when all this stuff starts popping up that, well, this makes a lot of sense now, doesn't it? Because you've got all of these you got the Church of Satan, you got Zena LaVey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it out of the realm of possibility that she wasn't trying to do the same thing? Maybe she did it, and maybe just they'd let one of them out. Is it out of the realm of possibility that some of these lookalikes that are that damn similar? I mean, there's threads online that go back historically and show people that look identical to celebrities from today.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, I've never found somebody that looks identical to me. Ever.
Not that you know of.
Not that I know of, but to have 7 people, 7 women that are a spitting image of one another, that all happen to be famous. You mean to tell me I never came across one person in fame that looks exactly like me? Come on, man. Like, you got 7 of them in Hollywood, different ones?
Yeah, no, look, I think given I'm gonna give you some real bro math and some real bro science right now. Given the amount of people that are on this earth, there has to be. I feel like everybody has to have a doppelganger. Like I just feel like you just don't know because there are so many people on Earth, and the reason why we know about these people is because they're famous. Now, granted, why is it that all of these people happen to be famous? It's also coincidental they all happen to be good looking, right?
Yep.
And famous people are generally good looking, especially when we're talking about your prototypical Hollywood actor, actress, singer, right? So I don't know. I feel like I would be willing to bet a decent amount of money that everybody has a doppelganger, or at least everybody has somebody that looks very similar to them. I just think that most people don't know and have never come across it because there are billions of people in this world. You know?
I'm going to challenge
That's my
you.
take on it. That's my take on it.
The fantastical side of me is going to come out. The realist side is going to kind of go by the wayside for a minute.
All right, let's go, baby.
I have often postured the idea of infinite life, right? And there's rumors of certain, I'm trying to think how I can phrase this here, of certain vitamins, I guess, supplements would probably be a better word, that is very much named similar to like an Android Chrome browser, if you get where I'm going with that. And I've thought about that. And again, in pop culture, that exists all the time. I'm going to use another example. I mean, you've got people that have been in perennial pursuit of the tree of life. You've also got, there was a TV show called The 100, and they get to this one like idyllic society where there's this like God family there, right? And every, I don't know, X number of years, as one of them gets older, they take like a child up, like a younger person, like a teen or something, up there, and they basically transfer their consciousness into their body, take over their body, and like trap the teen in their old body. Their vessel just dies, right? And then they become that person, and they have lived for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's the same family, just moving themselves into new bodies over there. Again, this is not a very old TV show. It's a very the 100 covered off a plethora of science fiction topics. Very underrated show. Nevertheless, I mentioned that there's a lot of things historically, a lot of lookalikes historically, and I want to bring up a couple of them here because I think they're
I've seen that one before. Yeah,
interesting to the point here. I mean, Eddie Murphy with some random, black dude from back in like the old days, right there. Very striking.
Eddie Murphy has a very distinct look, though. You know what I mean? Like he's got very distinct, almost kind of like sharp features. So it's interesting to find somebody else that looks
very
just
wild
like him.
I mean, his lips look the same, his mustache looks the same, his nose, everything about it. Here we go. This is Jennifer Lawrence, and here's an Egyptian actress. Again, an older. This is a spitting image of one another.
Yeah,
right
it's
here.
the same people.
Matthew McConaughey.
Holy shit, dude! Stop it!
Right?
Stop it!
Those
Those are 2 pictures of Matthew McConaughey.
It's unbelievable, man. Robin Williams and Russian immunologist Ilya Mekhanov. Spitting image.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah.
While we're on the subject of Robin Williams, let me come back to him in a little bit. Shia LaBeouf and Albert Einstein.
Oh,
Macaulay Culkin and Vladimir Putin. As random as that is.
that is super random. Holy shit, that's Channing Tatum.
And a young Channing Tatum. A uniform Channing Tatum. Queen Latifah and 1940s Zora Neale Hurston. Brad Pitt and the inventor of the ink blot test, Herman Rorschach.
Wouldn't it be cool if that was a Russian
Judy
dude and his
Zipper.
name was Vlad Pitt?
Vlad Pitt? That would be good. Judy Zipper in the 1960s and Leo DiCaprio.
Now we're crossing genders here.
And a young Nicolas Cage. So there's plenty more here too that we can go through. A little Eminem action right there. I mean, this
Steve Carell with a big stash.
Here's Justin.
That's pretty
Timberlake
wild.
right there.
His eyes are the same.
Maggie Gyllenhaal with Rose Wilder Lane. I don't even know who this guy is, but he looks similar. This is Orlando Bloom. To me, it's, I don't know, man. It's absolutely mind-boggling that these things exist. I'm sure plenty of them are faked out there.
That is
I'm
cool.
sure plenty of them are coincidences, but I can't help but wonder. We both have agreed many times that there's more technology than we're probably aware of. There's also suspicions in some circles that aliens live among us, and I tend to wonder, postulate, I'm not saying this is fact, but it's something fun that I like to think about, is if there are species among us that have lived here, would they not position themselves in places of power? Would they not change careers? Would they not reinvent themselves? Would they not look the same in a 1940? I mean, you always see that in some of these old time travel type movies or shows where they find somebody like a vampire and they look the same hundreds of years ago. And here we are seeing that evidence and being dismissive of it.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Think about it. If you were an alien, right, and you were so advanced, right? I mean, you gotta. This theory depends on aliens being super advanced, which I think that if they came here, we would all agree that they would be. Why wouldn't they have the technology to do that? Why wouldn't they have the technology to live forever and just transcend generations?
Right. It's fascinating, man. It's something that I don't think is that far off from us either. And I'm not saying the idea to live forever, but the idea of the replacement theory, right?
Yeah.
It's been postured and speculated and to some degree confirmed that very famous, powerful people will often put in doppelgangers or body doubles into situations where they think it might not be safe. And again, that's not even real speculation. That's borderline confirmed at this point. You never know where they are or which ones they are. They're supposed to look that good. And you alluded before we went on the air that there's a particular program by the CIA that has done just that, like with physical masks.
With masks, yeah. I mean, we know that that's the truth today. I mean, the CIA has come out and said that, I couldn't tell you what time period it was, but they put a lot of effort and work into creating these masks that were so lifelike that you could be within feet and have an interaction with the person wearing that mask and you'd have absolutely no idea. They could turn around, take that mask off, and that person you were just talking to, poof, they're gone.
Different person.
They never existed.
Yeah.
Completely different person. So we know that's real.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I mean, I've seen a lot of those things come up on social media where people have these like little stupid like spandexy things or these like little cloth ones.
Yeah.
I think they look god awful, most of those things. But when you do look at Hollywood movies, granted it takes hours and hours and hours to do it, but you're seeing it a lot more now too, where people will undergo these transformations to make themselves look different. And it does look pretty good. Now, do I think personally I would be fooled by that? I'd like to think not. But that's also...
Who knows?
Well, right. That's also what we know of. And as we found with many other programs, sometimes what you know of means that that technology is probably 20 or 30 years ahead. And, if organizations like this are behind it, what's their mission, right? Ideally, it's supposed to be to go spy in other places, not get caught, protect your identities. Makes a whole lot of sense. But it doesn't mean that there isn't something else happening or there isn't forces behind it that are using that technology to manage it themselves. So I
Yeah.
know we are all over the place here. We've got multiple theories crashing into one another.
They're
But I
all
think-
similar-ish.
That's what I'm getting at. Is like it's hard
Right.
for me to differentiate them because I think they all overlap. I think they're all very similar, and I
Sure.
think they're not mutually exclusive to one another. I think it could exist that there are, I don't know, infinite life type people that are also creating body doubles. I think there's people that again that are maintaining themselves. Maybe they are of another species and they're just staying young, but they're trying to create their own offspring, or they're creating their offspring and like the island, they're harvesting them to maintain themselves, and that's been the secret to what they've been doing this whole time. A lot, man.
It's a lot to unpack, dude. It is a lot to unpack. Look, I think that I agree with you. You said it a few moments ago. I think that there is a ton of technology, especially as it pertains to anything that has to do with national security or the federal government, that there's technology that we don't know exists today.
Yeah.
It's probably existed for a long time, and it could be 50 plus years until we even know it exists, right? Like, I mean, that's just, we know that's the case, right? I mean, look at the stealth bomber, right? Like, the U.S. military has come out and admitted, like, you know, some of those UFO sightings, that was the stealth bomber, right? So it was around for a long time before the public knew about it, and they were testing it, and people were seeing it, and they weren't nuts, right? So we know that they're working on new technologies all the time, and they keep it secret for whatever reason, usually in the name of national security. And look, when anything is a secret, anything is possible, right?
Yep.
Does that make sense? Because
Yes,
you
it makes
just
total sense.
don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So anything that we've talked about tonight, while it is probably just a fun theory to bullshit and kick around, there could be little grains of truth within it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's a soundbite right there, Mr. Phillips, that little quote there. Speaking of fun little things here, I mentioned Robin Williams before. As we bring this thing to a close, I wanted to bring up this
This is one of my
Robin
favorites.
Williams video. Now, we talked a little bit before that the idea of celebrities that sort of take themselves out of the public eye and, you know, it's staging a death, more or less, to go live their life in peace. Well, there's a guy that started popping up on Instagram, and I can probably pull up his actual Instagram as well, but this video seemed to do the trick for us here. His name's Uncle Pappy.
This is one of my favorites.
And I'm going to skip the intro here, but I'm just going to play this for you guys and let you hear what we're talking about.
Out of my eye. I love him so much, man. So I'm gonna do a little Robin impression for y'all, okay? This is Robin Williams talking to me about swimming with the alligators. Let me see now. Happy, you swim with the alligators. If you get attacked, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's a grand adventure. I don't know, man. Go easy on me. I'm just trying, man. I've
I
practiced
mean,
a long
that
time
is
with that,
Robin
man.
Williams' voice, if you ask me. That guy just...
It's a video, somebody
Let me
commentary,
say
so.
this time. It's not your fault. You crossed the Delaware on Christmas Day. It's not your fault. I don't know, man. I'm tired. Man, thanks for all the lovely comments. I love Robin. He's the best, man. Keep on rocking.
So I want to switch tabs here real quick. This is his Instagram, Uncle Pappy. He's got 1 million followers, obviously for a reason here. As
Yeah.
you look through them, I mean, it looks like an older Robin Williams. I'm not going to lie.
Hands fall through. If I'm excited about a big trip
Yeah.
or a great opportunity,
The interesting thing about it in his voice, because I did like the rabbit hole on this one. I listened to quite a few of them. It actually
Yeah.
sounds like Robin Williams trying not to sound like Robin Williams.
It does. It sounds like him doing like a southern voice.
It does. It really does.
Right?
It's crazy to me. Here's a good.
This is-
hear the most.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to play his audio, but you could see his face pretty well right there.
Yeah. Yeah. This is one of my favorite ones because not only is it so strikingly similar to Robin Williams,
Yeah.
but I loved Robin Williams.
Yeah, it was
like
a great actor.
I mean, my God, especially like people of our generation, people that are like in their late 30s, early 40s. Like when
Yep.
we were growing up, Robin Williams was a huge actor, and like to me, he was one of the funniest guys. Like I loved Robin Williams movies, so like I want him to be alive. I want this to be Robin Williams. You know what I mean?
Yep. It's the Elvis thing all over again, Tim. People want it to happen, so they
Yeah.
want to make it
See?
happen. You know?
Exactly. Bringing it full circle back to Elvis. And that's why the Elvis thing is so big, because they don't want him to be gone. Just
don't
like I
want
don't
him
want
to be
Robin to be gone.
Yep. That is a fun one. It's miraculous to me, too, that this is a guy that quite literally popped up on social media overnight. He's floating in
Yep.
what looks like, I don't know, a bayou, maybe, and he's just floating there.
Yeah.
He's drinking a cup of coffee, and he's just talking. And all of a sudden, he blows up to over 1 million followers on Instagram because he looks and sounds like Robin Williams. I mean, you got to kind of know. You didn't go in there at all into this whole process and not realize what you're doing to some degree. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, man.
And you know what? Think about it, right? Just thinking about Robin Williams, and obviously we don't know from a personal perspective, but from what
Yeah.
you know about him as a person and an actor,
Yeah.
I don't think that he'd be able to stay away. Like, I think that he would need an outlet to kind of be himself a little
Right.
bit and kind of fuck around with people. You know what I mean? That's also what makes that one a lot of fun.
And you know that's what, again, bringing this full circle back to Elvis, the guy Bob Joyce.
Right.
What's his outlet? He's preaching, but he's also singing and he's entertaining in a degree,
Right.
and he's
Exactly.
upholding his religion. And so, you know, if there are famous people out there that have done this, I can't blame them. Honestly, I'm sure I've
Yeah.
never been that famous. I've never really been famous at all. I was once recognized at a party because someone Sugar and Shane from MySpace. That was pretty cool. That was a direct quote. Oh my God, you're Sugar and Shane from MySpace. Direct quote. So I was very local celebrity famous for a very, very, very short stint in my life. And that was rewarding. But to go around, and you see this all the time with the paparazzi, especially now, they're in your face because now somebody swats at you or
Yeah.
something. It's all over the news that you're an arrogant prick. Blah,
Right,
blah, blah.
right.
But
They're
have
almost
to
trying
deal
to
with that.
agitate you.
They are.
Yeah.
They're intentionally trying to get a rise out of you, and you've got to pretty much be on your best behavior 24/7, or you're a prisoner in your own house. And to live like that forever, just dude, you don't even have to be famous anymore. You could be famous 30 years ago, and most of the time they're still knocking down your door looking for you. And to me,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That would be tough to do. And if I was given the option to basically scrap my identity and just go live off the grid somewhere and just got to coast, I think I'd take it too. And I don't blame them
Why not?
if they take it.
Especially if you've got all the money in the world, right? If
Right.
we're talking about these
Right.
A-list celebrities, they never have to work a day in their life again.
Yep.
So they can just disappear and
Yep.
go quietly into the good night.
Well, Tim, I mean, we should take notes because everybody out there that is listening is going to like, subscribe, and share this with the people they like and the people they don't like. And then one day we're going to be those A-list celebrities.
go.
We're going to be right up there with Joe Rogan toppling the Spotify charts over at #1 for your most listened to podcasts out there. And we're just going to get so fed up with the paparazzi that we're going to want to go swim around in the bayou and record videos of ourselves making impressions of ourselves talking. I don't think we have distinct enough voices, but who knows? Stranger
As long as I get to do it with Robin, I'm good.
Touche. That'll be all for us, ladies and gentlemen. We'd love to hear what you think. Do you have a celebrity lookalike that we missed? A celebrity doppelganger? Or do you have another theory about one of these celebrities that have disappeared that might be out there? Leave it in the comments section below. Find us on all the social media platforms, conspiracyrealist.com, to get those links really quickly if you don't want to type them in. Otherwise, everything else in the description. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, raise your glass to mystery. It's another episode of Cocktails and Conspiracies. So long.